All right. Good evening. I would like to call to order today's September 21st meeting of the Little Rock City Board of Directors. I'd like to take this time to welcome those that are in attendance as well as those that are online. Madam Clerk, if you would, please call the roll.
Director Richardson. Director Webb.
Here.
Director Pack.
Here.
Director Wright. Director Wyrick.
Present.
Director Compuris.
Present.
Director Phillips.
Here.
Director Adcock. Present. Vice Mayor Hines.
Present.
Mayor Scott.
Present. Vice Mayor Hines, would you please give the invocation?
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, we come to you today to humble ourselves before you as we seek guidance in leading our city. Please watch all of our first responders, our city employees that are out doing the work of our citizens every day. Please protect them and watch over them. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. May we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a couple of items of presentation. I will first read our Hunger Action Month proclamation, and then immediately following that, we will have Mr. Gabe Holmstrom with the Downtown Little Rock Partnership to give an update, and immediately following that, go straight into our consent agenda. Whereas the economic and health crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has had a devastating effect on Arkansas families and individuals in need, and despite dedicated efforts over the last decade by nonprofits, government agencies, businesses, and other organizations to reduce the number of Arkansans experiencing hunger, the ramifications of the pandemic have reversed this progress. And whereas the number of Arkansans experiencing food insecurity has soared over the last year, to meet this increased need, Arkansas anti-hunger advocates have worked with state and federal agencies to seek waivers that have allowed out-of-school programs and school districts flexibility in how they serve meals to children, and to the food banks and pantries for expanded flexibility in food distribution. And whereas to meet this increased need, Arkansas anti-hunger advocates have worked with state and federal agencies to seek waivers that have allowed out-of-school programs and school districts flexibility in how they serve meals to children, and to food banks and pantries for expanded flexibility in food distribution. And whereas the expansion of the federal safety net, especially the USDA's decision to provide $1 billion per month in additional food assistance to SNAP recipients, has also had a significant impact on the lives of Arkansans in need. And whereas Arkansas's 6 Feeding American food banks distributed more than 95 million pounds of food through the Charitable Food Network in 2020, an increase of 30 million pounds over the previous year. And whereas as the COVID-19 pandemic came to Arkansas, the city of Little Rock responded immediately to the health and economic crisis caused by the pandemic by partnering with nonprofits, the Little Rock School District, restaurants, and other organizations to coordinate food relief efforts, including outreach to ensure eligible residents were aware of federal assistance programs such as SNAP, sponsoring citywide food distributions, and more. And whereas no child, senior citizen, or person of any age should be faced with a lack of food, and we know that food insecurity has detrimental impacts to developmental and cognitive growth, learning, health in child and senior populations, productivity, and other long-term social and economic consequences. And whereas September has been designated Hunger Action Month, now therefore I, Frank Scott Jr., Mayor of the City of Little Rock, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim September 2021 as Hunger Action Month in the City of Little Rock, and call upon residents to join with hunger relief providers and advocates in Little Rock and all over Arkansas. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. We'll add this to the files, and this will go to all of our hunger relief advocates. Now we'll ask Mr. Gabe Holstrom.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, board members. After taking a year off, like so many of us did with so many events, next weekend, October 2nd, we're going to be back with the 10th anniversary Main Street Food Truck Festival. As many of you know, this was an event that we started to bring people back to downtown and back to Main Street. And I think any of you who will see Main Street today, as opposed to where it was 10 years ago, will see that it has been a success and people are back and they're ready to come back again. So this year we're going to bring 67 of your favorites and some new food trucks to downtown. And we still expect people that are to come back. All indications are that they will, but we're going to add a new twist. So one of the biggest challenges that we have with the event is the amount of trash that we produce. And we're going to work with an Arkansas-based company called Food Loops. Thanks to our friends at Coca-Cola Consolidated and Keep Arkansas Beautiful, they're the ones that are underwriting this effort, but we're going to make this a much more sustainable event. So the goal of this event, and all indications are that we're going to succeed with this, is to reduce the waste by about 85 to 90%. So all of the trash cans that you currently see on Main Street and the ones that we usually bring in, those are going to go away, and we're going to have waste stations as well as other bags set up, and those bags are going to be taken to a sorting area. So as bizarre as this sounds, typically we'll generate about 3 large dumpsters full of trash. That's all going to be sorted and be sent to 3 areas: recycling, composting, and then landfill. So this group has a track record. They've worked with the March Madness with the NCAA, as well as some NASCAR races, and they really have a great track record with this. So we're very excited to see this. We're providing all of the trucks with sustainable and recyclable materials. So the clam shells, the flatware, all that is going to be recyclable. So here's to a good weekend next weekend, and we hope to see you all out there. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Director Peck.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Gabe. I'm so excited, and on behalf of the Sustainability Commission, which I'm the liaison to, we're so excited that you've taken these steps to reduce waste and trash, and thank you for making that a focal point, and I hope that our food festivals in the future can follow along in the same vein. Thanks so much.
Ma'am, thank you.
Director Adcock.
Yes, Mayor, I would like to hold item 4 separate, please, of the consent agenda.
Item 4 will be held separately.
Mayor, I don't know if this is the time. I know you said there's a few things, but I'd like to respond to Director Adcock at the appropriate time.
This is the appropriate time.
I guess I asked for a ruling from the parliamentarian. Since this item was placed, this was a resolution placed by a board member, that board member being me, and then it was on the consent agenda based on the agenda last week. Does another board member have the right to remove something from the consent agenda? That's a question for the parliamentarian.
Well, she didn't, the chair did, and the chair does have the right.
Okay, the chair does, but the board members does not. Am I understanding you correctly?
No, that's correct. The practice with the board for at least the last 25 years has been that if a member asks to remove something from the consent agenda, even as the meeting begins, it has been done so as a courtesy and heard separately.
Okay, understood. Thank you, parliamentarian.
Mr. Parliamentarian, I was not aware of that. Thank you for that. Out of courtesy to City Director Phillips, I would assume that this will be an adverse action. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I mean, if it's off the consent agenda and taken up separately, we can do that. No problem with that. I just want to make sure we was following the rules and doing so.
Well, the chair will keep it on the consent agenda, unless otherwise.
I object to that, Mayor. I would like to have it held separate as well.
There's an objection to that. from Vice Mayor. What is your objection?
I would ask that this also be held separate, Mayor.
Now that there are two, Mr. Phillips, there are two board members that have asked for this to be held separate. Out of courtesy to you, I wanted to keep it on. But now that we have two board members that have asked, we will both hold it separately.
Yeah, that's fine with me, Mayor. Thank you.
Item number 4 will be held separately. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the consent agenda.
The consent agenda consists of a resolution to authorize the city manager to approve a contract increase with James A. Rogers Excavating Incorporated in amount not to exceed $400,000 for the final cover system of cell 4 for the Little Rock Class 1 landfill and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Hasty Awards in an amount not to exceed $80,215.50 to provide the 2022 Little Rock Marathon Finishers Medals and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with U.S. Bank in an amount not to exceed $700,000 to provide prepaid Visa rewards cards in varying denominations of $50 and $100 for COVID-19 vaccination incentives and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
Move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Hey.
Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 5 and 6.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source contract with Motorola in an amount not to exceed $1,598,390.60 for the purchase of Motorola APX 6000 series radios for the Little Rock Police Department and the Little Rock Fire Department and for the purposes. An ordinance to condemn certain structures in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas as structural fire and health hazards, provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structures, to declare an emergency, and for the purposes. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source contract with Motorola in amount not to exceed $1,598,390.60 for the purchase of Motorola APX 6000 series radios for the Little Rock Police Department and the Little Rock Fire Department. An ordinance to condemn certain structures in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas with structural fire and health hazards, to provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structures, to declare an emergency. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to authorize the city manager to enter into a sole source contract with Motorola in amount not to exceed $1,598,390.60 for the purchase of Motorola APX 6000 series radios for the Little Rock Police Department and the Little Rock Fire Department. An ordinance to condemn certain structures in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas with structural fire and health hazards, to provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structures, to declare an emergency. Third and final reading.
We've now had 3 readings. Before we take a vote, Director Richardson.
Yes, Mayor, my hand was raised. I was trying to support Director Phillips' request to keep it item number 4 on the consent agenda. That would have made it 2-2 steel case death match. I don't know if that affected into your decision or not, but I think last week Joan had asked for the awards for the structures that were condemned and what wards were they in, and I don't recall getting that information. I think all of them, if I'm correctly, were in Ward 1. I think periodically my late great mentor in Shiro, we always talked about the disproportionate number of vacant structures in Ward 1 and Ward 2 and UV structures in Wards 1 and 2. And I don't remember, I think Joan had asked Bruce for some information on the location and the wards of those structures. And I think she said it from a historical perspective. So I'm kind of confused about how we're moving forward without having that information and why we didn't have that information, Mr. Moore.
Director Richardson, we showed the pictures, last week, and with the pictures has the ward and, information. Also in the ordinance, they're listed, the first one's on Martin Luther King Drive, second one's on State Street, third one on Amberson Street, Ives Road, South Van Buren Street, and so those are the five.
Well, Joan, you can correct me, but I thought, Joan had asked from a historical perspective, how many, not just the ones, we saw those on the screen, and we saw the location, when we had those presented. And I thought Joan had asked for some kind of historical perspective on the number of unsafe and vacant structures, as well as demolitions. And I thought I heard Joan ask for that more from a historical perspective, not just the one we're talking about tonight. And I didn't get that. I didn't see that in the information in our Pony Friday.
No, you're correct. I think the question was around the number of liens that we have filed, and that will be that takes a little while to compile, but I'll be sending that out Friday.
So the question was around liens, not those who had been condemned, or those that had been demolished, because it's a clear observation that a disproportionate number of those structures in wards 1 and 2, and I think that lends itself to some of the targeted financing efforts we tried to talk about during the resolution that we passed earlier this year. There's certainly parts of our city that's hurting more than other parts, and I would hope my good friend and Dr. Dean would agree with me that if there's one part of the body that's in more pain or has more severity of pain and or damage than the other part, we would pay attention to that part rather than treat all parts equally, which is lended itself to a lot of social ills that contribute to the number one issue, public safety, which we can't police our way out of. So I don't know how to capsulize this. I'm somewhat confused and amused about how we're proceeding right now. So I will be voting nay on this.
Director Wright?
Last week regarding this issue with the structures that were going to be demolished, I questioned one of the structures due to the facade, and it just appeared to me that it could have some historic significance. And I asked a question of staff, had they done a review, and I thought I was told that they had done a review. But at our memorial service for our colleague, Director Hendricks, one of her community residents approached me and said that they thought that it did have some historic significance. And they wanted me to raise the concern again that we look at that structure. I know the facade appears to be in good shape, but the structure itself is not sound. I understand that. But this individual community resident of Ward 1 said that he thought that house did have some historic significance, and I hate tearing down historic structures. So I wanted to raise that point again, and I know our housing director I think he's here. Yeah, he was here. But I thought I was told that they had done a review.
Director Howard here. Director Howard, if you will address Director Wright's comments.
Yes, sir. Director Wright, we did do a review of the structure at 3509 Martin Luther King Drive. We did meet with planning, and the information that they provided to us that the property is not a historical structure. Now, the information that I received from a citizen, it did state that the person that stayed there had some historical significance as far as information, as far as, the person, having some type of historic significance due to, the things that they did as a profession. But actually, the structure itself is not a historical structure and is not in a historical area.
So it's not over 50 years old?
Yes, it's over 50 years old, but it's not on the historical registry.
Well, that just could be an oversight. I thought we did some type of survey of all those structures. I know the facade looks like it would have been included or should have been included just by the nature of the facade, but so it is over 50 years old. So would that not qualify to be considered?
Well, I think when you go to that, you will have to get involved with the the State Historic Preservation Officer would have to deem that structure to be historic.
And we didn't.
It's not in the historical area. It's not considered to be in the historical area, in the historical district. I know that the South End Neighborhood Association would like that area to be designated as this historical area. They would have to go through a survey, and I think that's one of the things that Brian Minion was working on with them before he retired. I don't think it has been completed, but the information that I received from the residents did have some information regarding the structure, but it hadn't been logged in with the State Historic Preservation Officer.
Mr. Moore, who has taken Mr. Mignard's role, and would they continue working with the South End to try to get it into the historic preservation?
Well, Brian just left, so I don't think Jamie feel that yet. But it's an important role in the city, and I do believe we'll be moving forward filling that. But he literally just left a few weeks ago.
Well, let me ask my colleagues. Would you all be opposed to us making some type of, allowing a determination to be made on this structure since it is over 50 years old? And I know the South End has been working on this project for a while to try to get that area included. I just hate to see us tear down structures that could have some historical significance in a mad dash to just get rid of everything. I mean, this is not my ward, but this is a resident did come to me and say that they thought it did have historic significance.
Director Wright, I don't know if you want us all to say a yay or nay to that. I want to thank Kevin and his team for doing what they're doing, and I think that.
May I finish what I was saying, Mayor?
Yeah, I thought you asked what board input.
No, I said I was asking the chair.
Director Richardson, Director Wright was talking, and then we'll come back to you, Director Richardson.
I'm directing myself to the chair, and if I did not, I apologize.
No,
But
carry on.
this was a resident of Ward 1, and you all know him, Arnard Crump. And he is a resident of that area, and he would know about the area and historic homes and things in that area. I would not. All I could go by is what I saw on the facade. And the facade looked like it had some age to it, and it would qualify. Now I'm hearing that one of the person that lived there did something of a historic nature in our city. I'd just like to know, is there any objection, Mayor, to us possibly allowing the housing or planning staff to look into this and determine if there's anything we need to salvage here?
Director Wright, this is gone. It's my understanding, and please chime in, Director Howard, that this has gone through all the compliance approvals and planning and things of that nature. Is that correct, Director Howard?
That's correct.
So it has gone through that. Director Howard, generally when you go through a planning process, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that you do check whether or not it does have a historical significance before moving down this path. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So
I told him I would try.
And I do, well, it comes, so what's happened now, we've had 3 readings. And so you've made your comments, so if the board members decided to vote it down or, but there's been 3 readings, so now we have a vote. So there's not an opportunity, Mr. Parliamentarian, for an amendment at this time. Is that correct?
Amendment could be made before the vote's taken, but it would have to be seconded and then voted on separately.
So if you would like to pursue an amendment to for this to go back for some type of process, this
Well-
would be the opportunity.
Well, I would like to see, someone who is work with the South End neighborhood. I know they were working on this project. If the board doesn't want to do it, that's fine. I told Arnard that I would raise the point again because he did feel that this house had some kind of historical significance.
We
I have no idea.
we can make sure that, Director Howard, if you can make sure that someone reaches out to, Mr. Arnard as well as, Ms. Jeffries. And I think Mr. Ricky Jackson is the president of the South End Neighborhood Association at this point in time, but definitely, if you can't meet, get in touch with, Mr. Ricky Jackson, please get in touch with, Ms. Ruby Jeffries or Dr. Benny Hatchett. I'm sure they can fill you in, as well as, Mr. Arnard Crump.
And I know it takes some time before they let the contract, so there should be time to do that and then time for them to come back to us if they discover anything.
Yes.
So we don't have to pull it off, but I did tell him I would bring this back up.
Will you take the lead on that, Director Howard?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's-
And I agree with you totally with the information that she provided, this week to us. We'll have a few weeks before we get it out.
Okay,
So, if the city manager is fine with it, I'm fine.
And that's fine, but, I think it's important to, note, that the owner is the one that's responsible for, making application and, going through the process. That person, obviously, they're duly notified, as all these other individuals were. So, we can talk to Ms. Jeffries and Arnott and everybody, but at the end of the day, it's the owner's responsibility to move something forward if he so chooses, and, obviously, he's not here, tonight.
well, that person could be elderly or they could be deceased. I don't know. I just know that the gentleman came to me and I said that I would bring this up. That's all I'm doing.
Yes, ma'am. So, Director Howard, move forward. We're just working with any, some of the comments that were shared by Director Wright. We've had 3 readings. Are there any more questions from the, Director Richardson had a question or comment?
Yeah, Mayor, just one more comment, and it has less to do with that one particular structure and more to do with the process. And if they've gone through it, and we've offered them the support to go through the process, and they receive a determination, I'm of the mindset we don't improve in communities by tearing structures down. I've never been in that mindset, and I've said that repeatedly since I've been on this board. But the other thing that just popped into my mind real quickly that makes this really, really frustrating to me is a lot of time it's a messenger rather than the message that carries the weight. And it's not what's being said, that who's saying it. I could almost, and I hope I'm wrong, I could almost guarantee if I discovered a cure for AIDS right now, I'd have one nay vote against it. And the frustrating part is I don't have to call that person's name out for those who serve with me and those who follow city board members meetings. That if I had a cure for AIDS, discovered a cure for AIDS, I can be guaranteed one nay vote tonight. So I think that what Director Wright was talking about illustrates a lot of times the frustration that certain people in our community feel about their message not being given the same weight as the message of other people from other parts of our city. And if my comments less to do with that particular structure. Support Director Howard and his team and his staff and what they're doing. And I support Director Wright and her following up with Arnard's request. And I think Ms. Moore made it clear that if the person didn't apply themselves, then we're pretty much handcuffed in terms of what we can do. But I just wanted to emphasize that the most often, and that's been a part of the most frustrating thing about being on this board, is the messenger rather than the message that carries the weight. And that has some serious negative consequences in certain parts of the city of Little Rock, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Director Richardson. We now had 3 readings. Are there more questions? Seeing no more questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.
Mayor, register me a no on that item, about the structures.
Director,
Emergency.
there's also, City Clerk, Director Wright is registered as a no, on that particular vote. We also have an emergency clause, for these, votes. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.
That was item 6.
Yes. Madam Clerk, would you please read item, number 7, please?
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan and establish a revised plan office district titled Integrated Site Solutions Revised POD located at 218 North McKinley Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
Who did I get a second from?
I believe I heard Director Wright.
Okay. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a revised plan office district titled Integrated Site Solutions Revised POD located at 218 North McKinley Street, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
That's third reading. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a revised planned office district titled Integrated Site Solutions Revised POD located at 218 North McKinley Street, third and final reading.
We've now had 3 readings. Director Webb, and then after Director Webb, Director Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. I wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to look at the email I sent, or that I apologize that Ashley sent to everybody today from the homeowner who lives directly behind this establishment, and he included a picture in it. But if you actually drive by there, the picture doesn't really do it justice, because it's kind of like this big hulking entity that feels like it's in his backyard. So it's very intrusive. And I know he was unable to be here tonight, and that's why he sent the email to me, which I forwarded to Ashley, and she sent you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Director Richardson.
I'm sorry, Matt. I didn't take my hand back down.
All right, thank you so much. We've had 3 readings. We've heard comments. Any more questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Nays have it.
Roll call.
There's been a roll call. Madam Clerk.
Director Richardson,
Aye.
Director Webb,
No.
Director Peck,
Director Peck, we can't hear you.
No.
Director Wright,
No.
Director Wyrick,
No.
Director Compuris, Director Phillips,
No.
Director Adcock,
No.
Vice Mayor Hines.
No.
1 to 8.
Nays have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read item number 8 for the first time.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned district residential titled the Octonary PDR located at the southeast corner of East 16th Street and Barber Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned district residential titled the Octonary PDR located at the southeast corner of East 16th Street and Barber Street, Little Rock, Arkansas. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned district residential titled the Octonary PDR located at the southeast corner of East 16th Street and Barber Street. Third and final reading.
We've now had three readings before we call the vote. Mr. Robert Hanson.
Yes.
You signed up to speak against Mr. Hanson?
Robert Hanson. Thank you for having me here to speak today. I don't actually, I grew up in that area over there, but don't actually live there anymore. I'm 1/4 owner of the house my brother lives in.
Mr. Hanson, if you don't mind speaking closer to the mic or pull your mask down just a little bit.
Yes, I grew up in that neighborhood over there, and I don't live there anymore, but I'm 1/4 owner of the house that my brother lives in, which is right next door, just yards away from this project. And I can't help but think that the house is going to go down in value and all the houses around the neighborhood there, because this project does not fit with that neighborhood over there. If you look at I don't know if y'all have seen it or not, the blueprint that was made where these houses are going to be built. It's a neat little document there, and it fills up the whole two lots there. And it looks like a big rental unit or something. But I've given a lot of thought to this, and this argument right here is the only one that just keeps coming back to me. If you look at that blueprint and look at it in the context of being in a neighborhood where families live, it just doesn't fit. Just won't work. And then when you kind of back up and look at it in total with the houses that are around it, it's ridiculous. And that's really all I can ask you to do is just look, if you haven't seen what I'm talking about there, the blueprint, then just think about it in your mind, and then kind of look back over the whole neighborhood. There's houses going down through there that are family houses. They got front yards and backyards, fenced-in backyards to raise a family. And this, of course, we'd rather the lot stay vacant, but we're not, going to tell somebody they can't build a house there. Why not build two houses there with front yards, backyards, fenced-in backyards, and let people come in there and buy them and raise a family? Why does it have to be 8 units there? It's just ugly. And that's about all I got to say. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Mr. William Hanson, Jr.
Mayor, can y'all hear me? Mr. Mayor and members of the board, thank you all for letting me speak this evening with you all. As Bob said, we're at 1609 Barber, which is right next door to this proposed operation. We have been there. It's been our homestead since 1959. And our family has been on the east side of Little Rock since the early 1900s. We didn't bail out of here early on like a lot of people did when the Western movement happened. We stayed, and we're proud of our neighborhood. It was bad for a long time. People said, "You live in East Little Rock? Oh my God." And I hate to say it that way, but they did. And I said, yes, we do. So anyway, we've come a long, long way, and we're proud of that, ladies and gentlemen. But this deal is far too excessive for the property that's going on. It's 0.32 of an acre. That's a half of a block, a short city block. You're going to put 8 different units in there and at a 10-car parking lot. And I'm going to ask each one of you to put yourself in our position. I live there. I'm the resident owner. I have 2 other owners besides Bob, and that's my sisters who live out of town. But think of it this way. Suppose you have this stuff come in next to you there, and you got all this parking and all this mess going on at these houses, and right next to your sleeping quarters. Okay, are you going to like that? I mean, it's just not feasible. We're not against progress at all, ladies and gentlemen, but this is too excessive progress. I mean, a couple of houses, 3 or 4 maybe, that is spread out. We could probably live with that, but not the way this is set up. And, the planning commission, I know nobody probably even took a look at this because they 10 and oldest, nobody named it. And I think it's intolerable. I mean, that's what I thought. I mean, I gotta be honest. So I would appreciate y'all thinking of it this way. Let's have some progress, but not that great a number of residences. And I appreciate y'all. I'm sorry I got all wound up, but I took over my 3 minutes, but I apologize to you. Thank you for listening to me.
And Mr. Hanson, the 3-minute rule is only during citizens' communication. Just wanted, so you knew the rule. That, I'm not asking you to come back up, though. You can if you want to. I'm just joking with you. I just want you to know the rules. Just a little levity here. All right. Director Adcock.
Yes, I have a question, Mr. Collins, please.
Director Collins, I don't see you. Oh, there you are.
Mr. Collins, these two gentlemen have grown up on this property, and there was a service station at one time that they was employed at. There was 3 gas pumps or containers underneath that ground. Did you check to see if they have been removed?
I have not been able to get with ADEQ and find that information. That was something that was asked of me earlier. We will endeavor to find out, has that been removed? There is a time frame back in the 80s that there was a lot of gas tanks that was removed in a big program that ADEQ done. That may be part of this. I do not know. But we will research that. If this does get passed at the board before any building permit is issued, that will be remediated and found out.
Okay, so we are putting on the site of a service station several years ago, 8 single-family houses and the car parking for 10 vehicles. Is that correct?
That's correct. The vehicles would be located adjacent to the alleyway.
But where we had a service station back in the 40s and 50s, we're putting 8 single-family houses.
That's correct. I mean, the plan development shows that we're splitting that into 8 lots.
Okay, thank you.
All right, now we had Director Adcock, Director Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor. Is the applicant here? Did he fill out a card?
I do not believe so, just the Hanson brothers, or Mr. Hanson Jr. and Mr. Hanson. Would you like, yes. But what, one sec, are you the applicant? I don't think.
No, he's not the applicant.
Yeah, you had your opportunity, but Director Collins.
Just to inform Director Wyrick, Mayor said they didn't fill out a form, but when I was in the back room, the applicant was present in that room.
Is the applicant still here?
I believe so. I can go check and see. Give me a second.
Yes. If the applicant is still here, we'll hear from the applicant. Director Wright, is your question pertaining to
I would like to see another rendering image. They would pull that up.
All right, we have the applicant here. Director Collins,
Do you have that?
can you work with IT to bring up the rendering for us to look at?
The reason why I asked for him to come is he's done a lot of work in East Little Rock, building houses and renovating property. And I wanted him to describe to all of us what his plans are for this development. And you had some big cards and displays at the Planning Commission. Do you have those with you today?
Yeah, no, I apologize. I didn't bring
I know you had your daughter with you when you were here.
I was able to get some help from Grandpa tonight.
Yeah, okay. So you don't have any renderings to
I
talk to us
apologize,
about?
don't.
Well, and can you describe what your plans are, how this is going to work and how the houses are going to look? It's my understanding that they will be owner occupied. You're going to sell these houses to individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like a little village. So can you describe to us what your plans are for that location?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I apologize. I'm incredibly nervous, so try and work through this.
Take your time.
So the idea, we're actually neighbors. I live on East 16th Street. There's an interstate separating us otherwise. So far, we've been able to do a fair amount of middle income housing, and we've been able to do some smaller projects that have been fun. But in order to help maintain the economic demographics that make up both our neighborhood and that of Hanger Hill, the idea and the hope here is to create smaller homes that would be more affordable to a broader group of. But this isn't a new idea or concept. It's there are 1,800 square foot lots already platted in the original city of Little Rock. We built a home on one about 6 years ago. Additionally, they're doing this in other cities. There was something in the news this morning where 4 smaller homes were just built in Bentonville. So it's not a new idea, but it may be new to Little Rock, but this is something that's happening across the country, and that we're just kind of building smaller homes that are more appropriate for first-time home buyers. Not everybody can wants or can afford your typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage style home. So we're just trying to offer something that is more affordable and attainable to the market. But the idea with these 2 lots is that this is on a corner, it's a corner lot. That these inner 6 houses would actually have front porches on them that would face each other. So that's just the buildable area. I'm not going to build square boxes. They'll have front porches on them, and you'll be able to kind of walk through that space and have this shared courtyard feel to it in order to better cultivate community, offering the front porches, trying to pull people outside. But however, the 2 that face Barber Street, those front porches will face Barber Street in order to maintain the current feel and balance of Barber Street. Additionally, we'll put some smaller front porches on the 16th Street side, not to disrupt the balance of that particular street. When these things have happened across the country, they did not bring the value down to the area. They brought the value up. So, and this isn't something that I have a problem living next to. I literally live next to 2 smaller structures. I'm a block away from 3 other smaller structures that I've built. So if I did have the opportunity to build these beside my house, I would do it. Just want to, I understand that not everybody wants to live next to these, but there are people who exist who do want to live next to these, and I'm one of them.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the square footage for each one of these? I understand some of them are going to be 2-story and some of them single-story. Can you tell us what the square footage are for the homes that you're proposing?
These are just ballpark figures, but the 2 that would face Barber Street would be in between 500 and 600 square feet. And those would be single-story houses. So you would just have these, something, it's not quite a tiny home. We'd probably refer to it as something closer to a small home. The 6 homes that are behind the 2 facing Barber Street would be 2-story houses and would probably be closer to 1,000 square feet heated and aired, that, not to include the porches. Additionally, the 2 in the back could potentially be built in a way that they would be a carriage house style. So there might be a single car garage on the lower level, and then a living space above it, as well as, porches that face the common area. And I apologize, we could have spent a lot more money in giving a better vision of but because this was a new idea, we just didn't want to go all in and spending a lot of money on renderings that would have really done this a better job at giving a vision to what we're trying to do.
All my questions. Thank you.
Director Wright, then after Director Wright, Director Richardson.
Yes. Now, I'm looking at your schematic here, and it says 630 square feet per floor for the 2-story.
It could be up to that amount. So that's the buildable area.
Okay. And then the 840 for the 1-story.
Sure. But if you consider there's a 6-foot front porch on the front, and then, so the heated and air square footage for the two facing barber would, it just cuts into that quite a bit. So that's the buildable area, but, and again, you know, I'm giving you ballpark figures, but it would be something closer to 500, 600 square foot for the two facing barber, and then maybe 1,000, 1,200 square feet for the six that are facing the corner.
Okay, all right, but it's not per floor. It's per the two.
So lots 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, it would be per floor. It could be up to that amount per floor if I built to the buildable area. But that, once you add in a 6-foot, 8-foot porches, it would reduce that heated and air square.
So you could be looking at 1,000 square feet for the 2-story and up to the 800 for the 1-story.
Yes, ma'am, it could be up to. If you built to the buildable areas and did no porch, but
Okay.
That's not my vision.
I was just trying to get a visual. My first home was less than 1,000 square feet. So I know what you can do with a small space, and it was 3-bedroom, 1 bath. And, you know, I thought it was quite nice myself. I could afford it. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Richardson.
Not a question for the gentleman. Thank him for the work he's doing. I know my Shiro is frowning down at me for adopting this my me concept tonight, but there have been several times I made suggestions that we pursue brownfield assessment and cleanup grants as employment opportunities to help clean up some of these older gas stations and use as part of our reentry programs. And I've yet to have anybody be supportive of that. And it goes back to the messenger analogy I made a minute ago. And I just like to say to the second gentleman, I can understand when he said he was embarrassed to say he lives in East End. When I first played EOA baseball and basketball, it was in East End. When I ran gang intervention prevention programs over in Hollisworth, it was East End. But now somehow it's magically, majestically going to be called East Village. So I want to tell him that hopefully that can soothe him, that it won't be identified as East End anymore. It'll be East Village. And with the naming and the branding, probably going to come some other opportunities that none of us saw in the past. But I think that it speaks to Jones' question about the cleanup of the gas station. We've had several opportunities, redevelopment opportunities at several codes of gas station that I've made suggestion that we pursue brownfield assessment and cleanup grant funding at no cost to us. We get this from the state, at no cost to the owner of the property, to have people, hire people to assess, and if there is any damage, to clean those properties up. And I'm somewhat surprised to hear that being a concern tonight. So that's all I had to say on that, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Richardson. I believe we've had everyone made a comment. Seen any more additional comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would please read resolution number 4.
A resolution to direct that in September 2021, a small business advisory council will be formed to advise the Little Rock City Board of Directors on policies affecting small businesses in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes.
City Director Antoine Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to address my colleagues before we discuss this vote. I brought this resolution last week because there are a number of small businesses that have reached out to me last year and this year concerned about the growth of their business with ideas that could help their businesses operate better, grow and function better. So this was a request of the citizens of Little Rock to have a small business advisory council, which would meet and then present their thoughts to us as a board, as a policymaking board, on what those things are that affect their operations or their businesses throughout the city. This is a resolution, and the members of this, Small Business Advisory Council would be selected by us, for them to meet for a short period of time. I think the resolution calls for them to produce a report by June of 2022. And then if this is something that works out great, maybe it's something that becomes a standing, committee like our other committees. But if not, we will have served the purpose of our small businesses by listening to them and being responsive. And when I use the term small business, is defined in the resolution for the members who are watching and here in person. Under the SBA, small businesses is anything under 500 people. However, we all know that true small businesses are 1, 2 people, 5, 6 people, 9, 10 people. And sometimes those businesses seem like they get lost in the shuffle of what small businesses are. So this gives us an opportunity to really hear from them, understand how their businesses are being operated, and what we can do to either encourage the growth, encourage more new businesses in our city. So with that, I hope that my colleagues understand the purpose and the intent of this resolution and this council. I also would state that prior to issuing this resolution, I spoke with city staff, the Small Business Development Office is supportive of this council. I took heed to my colleagues' comment last week about including someone from the planning department to be a part of this process, because we know a lot of small businesses have to deal with planning issues on the front end as well. So those issues have been addressed. The staff has shown support of this resolution, and I think it'd be good for our city. I think it makes our city better by being responsive to our small businesses. So with that, I ask my colleagues for a favorable vote here tonight to pass this council through a resolution. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Phillips. Director Adcock?
Maybe I'd like to table this until the first meeting in October.
There is a motion from Director Adcock. Is there a second? There's a second from Director Compuris. All those in favor? Please.
Aye.
I haven't finished yet, Director Adcock. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Roll call.
I haven't said whether ayes or nays have it yet.
Well, those roll calls don't come anyway, so.
Ayes have it. There's a roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Roll call.
Roll call.
Director Richardson,
Aye.
Director Webb,
Aye.
Director Peck,
Aye.
Director Wright,
Aye.
Director Wyrick,
Aye.
Director Compuris,
Aye.
Director Phillips,
No.
Director Adcock,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hines.
Aye.
Mayor, I meant no, I'm sorry.
Madam Clerk, would you reflect the roll call?
7-2. 7 ayes, 2 nays.
Mayor, if I may.
Director Phillips?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want the record to reflect, 'cause I think there was some confusion, as stated by Director Richardson, that vote was to table the motion. And that motion was made by Director Adcock. So I asked Director Adcock, can you state why you decided to table this motion for 2 weeks?
Unfortunately, that's out of order. You've had the vote. You're supposed to.
Excuse me?
It's not in order. You've had the vote, and the item is no longer before the board or to be here on October the 5th. I mean, I'll answer the question, but it's in terms of the.
Well, I'm not asking her to change her vote, Mr. Carpenter. I'm just asking her to talk to my colleague.
Sorry.
I'm just asking to talk to my colleague about why her position was to make that motion.
Right, but once a vote is taken, the matter is not supposed to be discussed further.
I'm not asking her to change the vote. We discuss matters after the vote's taken all the time.
Well, and when the point of order is called, I will tell you that once the matter is.
No, Mr. City Attorney, there was no point of order. No one made a point of order. You just inserted yourself into the conversation between me and Director Adcock?
I was trying to follow Robert's Rules of Order, which is what the board has adopted to follow.
Well, I'll defer to the chair on the ruling, but I was just asking my colleague why she made a motion to table.
There's a point
resolution.
of personal privilege. Director Phillips, would you like to make a question or a comment?
It's a comment, and I hope to get a response. I would like to know from any of my colleagues who voted to table this, what was the reason for the tabling? So we can address the issue to make sure we have a favorable vote next time. So that's open to all my colleagues.
Director Phillips is,
I got no one wants to talk to me again, Mayor. That's all. Thank you.
Director Adcock, is your hand up?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to request that you invite Mr. Derek Rainey to our next meeting to talk to us about his vision. And he is a small business development coordinator. I think he's only been in this position for a year, and I would like for him to address us with what he plans to do, his vision, and how we can assist him. Thank you.
Mayor, I got my hand raised if I would, Mayor.
Director Phillips, you may go before I respond.
All right, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I talked to Mr. Rainey. He was supportive of this. And in addition, this was a resolution for advisory council, not for him or whoever to assist and answer questions from the small businesses that will be represented through the advisory council. They were going to report to us as a city board because we make policy for the city, not the Small Business Development Office. So I'm not sure why Mr. Rainey's presentation would have any impact on what we decide as a board, as a policymaking board. He was there to be a liaison, assistance to the council when they have issues that relate to small businesses in the city of Little Rock. So I want to put that in the public record, if you will, that I think that issue has been addressed already.
Thank you, Director Phillips. And Director Adcock, I will take your request under consideration and will follow up with you whether Mr. Rainey will be here or not. Director Richardson.
I just want to reemphasize what Director Phillips said to Joan is that this is a resolution, and I'd hate for us to be dependent upon specific individuals, regardless of their level of expertise, to base our policy on what they bring to us. I think it's a resolution. That's all it is. It's a resolution, and it's not a panacea. It's something that's going to be and could be and will be a work in progress. I think that Director Phillips, I really appreciate what you're trying to do, because as you struggle with how do we define small businesses, that smaller number that you mentioned, just happen to be located in areas, those are the businesses in areas where we're suffering the most social ills that are producing the crime in our community. So I think this is one of the ways we can proactively look at addressing unemployment, underemployment, supportive services from these businesses to those communities that have developed partnerships. And I just think it's, I'm not sure I understand why we're delaying this until October. I mean, I'm flummoxed is the word I use, Vice Mayor.
I agree with you, Director Richardson. I'm disappointed that we couldn't get this passed this time. I also add to what you said, Director Richardson. I mean, obviously, we're still dealing with a pandemic, and we know that this virus has hurt those small businesses the most. So giving them an opportunity to communicate with us directly on how we can help improve what they do for our citizens and operating small businesses seemed to be an easy one. I don't know why this is complicated. I thought this was easy.
Yes,
last
sir.
week it was easy. We all seemed to be in agreement last week. I don't know what's happened since last Monday and today, but I agree with you, Director Richardson. I'm disappointed with what happened this evening.
Well, I thank you for that too, sir. Your kind words, and I think it goes back to the messenger rather than the message. It just reinforces, unfortunately, what I feel about how we conduct our business and how we move policy and move issues forward in our city to advance our city. So I thank you for your work on that. And I agree with you. It's an easy one. It's a resolution. It's not an ordinance. It's a resolution.
All right, thank you, Director Richardson. Director Wright, I believe you have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I would also like to hear from Derek Rainey. I recall in the past, our small business, development center, I remember when it started out. Matter of fact, my husband and I were recruited to be a part of it. Dude, it's been a while back. I'm not sure what it does now. So I would like to hear from Derek Rainey as to what our small business center does now. And that's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Director Wright, what most likely will happen at a point certain, we will do a policy discussion, and I'll keep you updated on that in response to your particular question. I do think that's a little bit separate than Director Adcock's request, and as I share with Director Adcock, I'll follow up on whether or not Director Rainey, Mr. Rainey will come before the board. But I do think I do appreciate your comment on that. And that more than likely will be a policy discussion.
Because it used to be a business incubator.
Yes.
And I recall back when I first got to Little Rock, the Hinton Center was being developed, and there were federal monies involved. And one of the things that was supposed to be there was an incubator for small business.
Correct.
I don't know what it has evolved into now. I have no clue what our small business development center does, or even if it's called that. And I think it's appropriate to have a discussion and have a presentation or something.
I don't.
However you want to handle it, that's my concern.
And we'll take that feedback.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I do want to share with members of the board the reason why. Sorry, Director Wire, you had a question? I'll give it to you.
Yeah, this is to follow up behind Director Wright's comments. I too would like to hear from Mr. Rainey. I'd forgotten that we had this small business administrator. I'm the one that asked Director Phillips to add someone from the planning department, because there have been some times when some real estate people have sold property to an individual, and then they have a plan for something, and that property does not fit into the zoning. So I think it's real important with small business, whenever they start looking for a place to rent or property to buy, that they understand what they can do and what they can't do there. So if we have an interview, or if we have a meeting with Mr. Rainey, there may be some other pieces of this commission that need to come together. There might be other pieces of city government that need to be a part of this. And I applaud Director Phillips for doing this. I just want to make sure that when we do this, we have all the pieces together and we're moving in the right direction. So that would be my reason to defer as was requested. It has nothing to do with Director Phillips or his idea to improve small business. I'm all about that. In Southwest, we'd like to have more small business, but no, it's just to make sure that we have all the pieces together as we push this commission forward. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Director Richardson, you had your hand up?
Yes, sir. This is my last time tonight, Mayor. I think the issue that's confusing to me is the mission and the work is laid out in the resolution, and I think that's the key point of what we should be discussing, rather than make up of the committee. That could be an ongoing process. I think that the resolution speaks for what Director Phillips wants to have us accomplish as a city. And to me, that is what's confusing to me. The makeup of it's irrespective of the makeup. The work and their mission is laid out in the resolution. What we want them to do. Now, we can always have time to change or add or deal with the makeup of the committee, but the resolution in of itself speaks to what Director Phillips wants us to accomplish through that particular resolution. So that's why I'm confused, and that's my last point tonight, Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. I just want to reiterate to members of the board, when we have our agenda meetings is to ask these type of questions, to get feedback and preparation, that we can move forward with progress, and not has as many tabling discussions. That's the reason why we have our agenda meeting. So I just really stress with the members of the board to please, when there are questions like Director Wyrick had, she had some questions about planning, and that was amended to be a part of Director Phillips' resolution. That's the process of having it. But we want to move towards with progress, particularly as it relates to our small business community. I want to commend City Director Phillips for not only listening to the community of small business community members, but being responsible with them with this small business council as a resolution to go through a fact-finding phase of a few months to decide whether or not this council should be transitioned to a board or commission. So I want to commend you, Director Phillips, on that. With that being said, the board will now go into executive session for the purpose of making appointments and reappointments to various city boards and commissions. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second to go into executive session for the purpose of boards and commissions. When we come back from boards and commissions, we'll then proceed with making any comments on what went on in executive session, and then go to citizens communications, and then to adjournment. To report on the actions taken in executive session, there's appointments for Central Arkansas Library System Board of Trustees, Esperanza Masana. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. For the Commission on Children, Youth, and Families, we have Dr. Shanae Eubanks, Jennifer Ferguson, Caleb Conrad. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Before we move into citizens communication, I'm about to share some information in regards to the vacancy of our dear, fearless leader and City Director Irma Hendricks, who had the untimely transition last week. We are still grieving and mourning in this process, and also within our own demonstration of love to her sacrifice that she's given to our city, being a voice for the voiceless, and being a fervent leader for all, but most especially those of vulnerable populations and communities. So we continue to share our appreciation to her life and legacy. We continue to remain in prayer for the Hendricks family's strength and comfort during this period in time. That said, we still have to start a process to fill the vacancy of a seat that can never be filled like it was with City Director Irma Hendricks. That being said, in accordance to Arkansas Code Annotation 1447-113, which lays out the vacancy, I, as chair of the board, have to announce the vacancy and the process. And so the process will go as follows. This will be shared in a press release tomorrow at a time certain, but we do want to share it publicly. On Thursday, September the 23rd, there will be an application submission process on the City of Little Rock's website through the city clerk's office, where those who desire to serve and fill this vacancy will have the opportunity through the time period of Thursday, September the 23rd, till September the 30th. The deadline will be September the 30th. On October the 1st, those applications will then be transferred to the City Board of Directors for review. On October the 5th, the City Board of Directors will discuss those applicants. While discussing those applicants, the City Board of Directors will rank the top 7 applicants, assuming there are 7 to be toply ranked. If it's another number, we'll make that adjustment, but the goal is to have 7 applicants to be reviewed. Of course, if it's only 2 applicants, it wouldn't be 7 applicants reviewed. So we'll make that adjustment based on the number of applicants. Those applicants that are ranked in the top 7 will then, on October the 12th, have 10 minutes each, both a period of time to share why they desire to fill the vacancy, and any questions, Q&A within that 10-minute period of time from the members of the city board. Their first opportunity will be to share. They can use their entire 10 minutes and have no questions from the city board, or they can use 5 minutes and then the remainder will be Q&A. And then after those interviews on October the 12th, members of the city board will go into executive session to discuss the interviews. They will not vote in executive session. They will vote publicly. It will be a public vote on October the 12th on who will be the next city director for Ward 1. We'll transcribe this into a written statement for the press, as well as go on onto our website. This will, all the parameters will be on the website by September the 23rd, when we open up the applications, but we will have a press statement out at a time certain tomorrow. But we wanted to share during our City Board of Directors meeting, knowing there are viewers online as well as that are here, to understand the process. It is the intent and the goal by October 12th to fill the seat of the late, the great, the legend, City Director Irma Hendricks.
Mayor, if I would, could you explain that this is just to fill the remainder of her term and that there still will be an election?
Yes. For those that are watching, this is only to fill the remaining months or year and a couple months of her term. There will still be an election for the Ward 1 seat, November of 2022. This person who selected can run. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney? This person can run, but there will also be availability for anyone else who chooses not to apply, but chooses to run for the city board seat next year in November of 2022. Director Richardson? Oh, you didn't have your, I'm sorry, you took it off. Thank you so much. But again, this will be a public vote in an effort to make sure this process is fully transparent. It will be a public vote. That being said, we'll now move to citizens communication. I do apologize. My eyes sometimes fail me. Liel The Rock, but number 12, Keo is the address, number 12. Oh, that's it. Senator Linda Chesterfield. Yeah, I couldn't read that. I'm looking at it, but I apologize, Senator Chesterfield. That was a signature. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I hope nobody's moved in since I left home. My name is Linda Dexter Chesterfield. It is my honor to serve in the Arkansas State Senate representing a swath of Little Rock. I'm here because of the schism that I see in our city. I am concerned that we continue to be separated along racial lines more than working for the totality of the population of this city. And it is troubling. We have a mayor who's working hard. We have a police chief that's working hard, one that first time in my history that I've ever had one come into my community and meet with folks. And even this evening, as we watch this unfold, and I'm sure we don't know it all, but when we have a young Black man saying, let's help get businesses started, and there seems to be pushback, once again, we think schism in this city. And so I'm here to ask the members of this board, you will do as you wish because that's what you were elected to do. But to keep in mind that all of us in this city matter. All of us in this city want this city to progress, to grow, to be a model city where individuals of all hues will want to come and be a part of it. And what we're seeing this evening does not reflect that, perhaps because, as I said, we don't understand it. But we've got to stop seeing from our leaders that there is always something that divides us. We keep thinking of 630, and it continues to be a part of what is going on in this city. So I came as a representative of a number of people. Not all 90,000 live in the city of Little Rock, but I do represent 90,000 folks. It is time to get our act together and get this city on track. And let's stop fighting against each other and let's start fighting together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Chesterfield. And Senator Chesterfield, for the record, there are two cards for you, one that clearly states your name that I can read, and there's another one that does not, but I just want to make, I apologize.
But the second card, please disregard. I had the opportunity to get that resolved thanks to the city manager. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ms. Natalie James.
Good evening, everybody. It's so great to see you guys. So today, the city is seeing a perverse misuse of elected power. The rhetoric has already been said. I'm just adding to. Our mayor is doing what he promised and what he was elected to do. Grow, unify, and break down the status quo from the last 20 to 40 years. He's connected the city in so many ways. And with his service and hiring the right people to better serve this city. The growth that we've seen, I've said this before, but seeing it and growing up back in the day, we are nowhere near how bad we were 10, 15 years ago. And that has to do with the people in this room. Your decisions affect my family and yours. This speak of non-confidence is a bullying tactic used to circumvent the people's will. Here we are today, and we have a large united family and community. This room was filled, still is filled, with our family and our community, and we must remember that. Does this look like citywide non-confidence to you, or does it look like confidence? To me, it looks like confidence in this room, in our mayor, and our chief. We are here today with elected officials, clergy, and the community to stand beside, alongside, and with our mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Mann.
Good evening, Mayor, City Board of Directors. I'm up here because I had gathered some information that they was planning on giving the mayor a vote of no confidence. And I'm here against that to voice my opinion simply because he took over a mess. I think he's running the city fine. Unfortunately, we didn't get the 1 cent sales tax to improve things. The issue was about the police chief. And again, I think folks are attacking in a direction that's totally unnecessary. We should support our police chief and stand behind him rather than finding ways to attack him. So that's my opinion. I don't know if what I read and heard is true, but I wanted to let the board know. Myself and my neighborhood support the mayor. And other folks I have talked to, we support the mayor. So we think he's doing a great job. He's got a big mess to deal with, and he is bringing Little Rock forward and not backwards. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Mr. Tim Campbell. Mr. King Supreme.
How y'all doing this evening? As I sat back and I watched everything that's been going on, listening to the language that's being used, and I'm not the brightest person in the world, but it seems to me like it's extremely easy for a certain financial demographic to be able to come into certain neighborhoods that are of a certain financial demographic and be able to take that and be able to profit from it. Yet you have a mayor who is standing up for the people and putting things on the table to help these certain communities that are affected in these financial demographics, and they shut it down. And so the only thing that I have to say is, instead of everybody got these bright ideas in order to better the community and better the city as a whole, why not help the individual that's there? Is it because those same individuals want to hoard their ideas and try to sit in this man's seat because they feel like they can do a better job? Or is there another ulterior motive to be used? I sit with people every day who give me great ideas, and I go out and I disperse those ideas to the people and I help the people. If you have someone in power, it does not matter who it is in this city. As I look at the murder rates, all of them have been extremely high over the past 35 years. So it really doesn't matter who sits there. If the people are not going to go and give them the help that he needs with y'all ideas, y'all the ones sitting on the board, y'all have the ability to make those things happen. But if you're not going to aid and assist this man, the only thing that you're going to do is hurt him. Because I've been sitting here listening to these people saying that we're going to do this to help the community. You're going to do this to help the community, using certain words. But you have other individuals that come in, they want to put down stuff and make money, and everybody gets rich and everybody's pockets get lined, but no help is given to the community. The murder rate is extremely high. That's what all this is about. That's why you say he can't do his job, because of this. Help him. That's your job. I'll leave y'all as I came.
Thank you, Mr. Supreme. Mr. Sean Johnson.
I should be Sean Woods, but I say how you doing there, and hello to the board. I was listening to the people, and my friend Natalie, she texted me and she told me what was going on, and I said a vote of no confidence, and I was like, who doing it? She said Director Hines. I was like, this the same guy been after the mayor since he got in office. What is it that you don't like about Frank Scott Jr.? What is it? You think you can live out in Chenal and Mount Mill and speak for the whole of Little Rock? This is what Little Rock look like. You're looking at Little Rock. You represent the few. You will not control the many. I saw this mayor. I saw the chief. They fired Charles Starks, and a judge told them, we're going to fine you $10,000 a day till he's reinstated. We got a black mayor, a black chief, a black city manager. This is the first time in my life, I'm 48, that I feel like I could get something done, that I'm represented in this city. And everything this man does is just like Barack Obama. Everything he did, a certain group of people was against him because I'm not running for office, so I can say it because of the color of his skin. You can't fire me. I represent the city of Little Rock. We voted him in. He's gonna stay there. No matter what you do, you get up there, we'll vote you out. We represent Little Rock. And if you can't listen to the people, you won't get nothing done, because the people control the government. The government does not control the people. We voted for Frank Scott Jr., and that's where he will remain as our mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. C. Dennis Edwards. Pastor C. Dennis Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to members of Board of Directors.
I'm here this evening as part of the community and to represent people in our community who want to feel stability, want to feel safe, want to feel that their needs are important and that they are recognized. We want to feel that their vote is as much as important as anyone else's, and that they should have a voice that should not be muffled. I want to tell just a little story, and I'm going to sit down. And this is relating to our mayor and to our chief of police. In another life, I worked in a factory, and I worked on the third shift. There were no supervisors on the third shift. It was a wonderful, wonderful shift. We did as we wanted to do. We knew how to cut corners, and we knew how to do just enough to be able to produce what we needed to have produced in 8 hours. We could do it in 4. So we had 4 hours to laugh and talk, find a place to sleep, and before the supervisors came on for the next shift, we were back at work looking like we had been at labor all night long. But that came to an end, and they brought in a supervisor. And we despised that supervisor, not because he did not do his job well, but he cut in on our fun. We were used to being without any guidance, any oversight, and just catering to our own selfish desires to just play and not produce. We have a mayor who is trying to be productive for all of the citizens. I was at his inaugural ceremonies and events, and represented in the room the people of all religions, of all colors, and he was elected by all of them. And he said that he would represent all of them. And to this day, he has been faithful, and my time is up, and true to his word. And our chief, maybe he's not liked because he tore up the playroom and inserted work where there has been cavalier disregard of what is right and just. We support our mayor.
Thank you, Pastor Edwards. Lieutenant Zach Farley.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, really wasn't aware of a no confidence issue tonight. Just wanted to kind of give you a better picture from the inside about the police department. Guess people think it's a playground. We've been playing around, and the last 21 years of my life have been a joke, I guess. But that's not the case. We have some problems. I came to this board about 9 months ago, first part of the year. And I didn't take any real shots at anybody. I didn't make anything personal, and I never will, or never will try to. But I asked for some help. We've got some issues that need to be addressed that aren't being addressed. There isn't stability at the police department. The senator was right. We all want to work together. We want this to be a good place. We all want to be happy. We want to provide the best service we can for the citizens of Little Rock. We want to be safe. But every day, violence is increasing. We had our 51st homicide today. Last week, a woman and her child were killed. It's ever increasing. We're 60 officers short. We have lack of direction because of the turmoil that's going on. It's not being addressed. All we're asking is for everybody to be treated fairly. Everybody, you campaign on accountability, clarity, transparency. When I was here at the first part of the year, I said everybody should be held accountable to the same standard. From the brand new officer to the chief. Everybody's on the same playing field as far as being accountable to the rules. But that's not happening. And nothing's been done. There's plenty of issues out there that are widely reported in the media. I wish things weren't out there. The dirty laundry wasn't being aired out in front of everybody. But a lot of that has nothing to do with me or my organization. We've stayed relatively quiet, trying to get these things resolved and through the proper channels, whether it be HR. Some members have taken things to court. No movement. COVID was an excuse, delaying things. But where do we turn? Where do we go? Where do our concerns get heard? I don't remember seeing anybody stand up that I've worked with at the police department in the last 2 decades. So I'm telling you from the inside, there's a problem. People are unhappy. Tenured, experienced, very good officers leaving, just walking away because of the turmoil that's happening. We can't keep up the recruiting. We're hiring 10, 11 people at a time, and we lose that many in a month. So I'm asking you again, and there needs to be some movement. We need some help. And I'm not asking for anything specific. Just do something that you're obligated to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farley. Pastor C. McAdoo.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. I stand before you as a 40-year United Methodist pastor. I also stand before you as a former deputy sheriff. Worked for Tennessee Valley Authority. Years ago, they trained us to be police officers and firemen. And I understand some of that tension, the value of having that 38 on your pocket sometime, and it does something to you, able to put your cap on and you run down the street and you make folks a little nervous. When you say police, it always brings up a little extra. But I want to say something this evening about what we're dealing with here in Little Rock and the leadership of the police department. Death is a community reality. I was recently in a death situation, and the policeman there, no particular color, no particular size, I didn't even look at his rank, but the policeman there made this family feel like the whole city had their back. And I pulled him to the side. I said, man, I really appreciate what you've done for this family. He said, this is a reflection of the leadership from the police chief, our Chief Humphrey, and his team. He was reflecting. And then you said, well, you got a lot of different reflections. I also supervised over 250 United Methodist churches. And I told every pastor, at best, you're a 33% pastor. You will have 33% for you. You have 33% against you. You will have 33% in the middle. You win some, you lose some. So I'm saying to us, let us realize you're going to have the naysayers, you're going to have the hallelujahs, but let us come together and be a reflection of the leadership of our mayor and the police chief. Thank you.
Marion Humphrey. While he comes, we'll go to Loretta Hendricks. Judge Humphrey, if you'll, well, carry on, and Ms. Hendricks will come to you right after we went to Judge Humphrey.
Well, I come tonight in support of our mayor and our police chief. I think our police chief has made some courageous decisions. I think it was courageous on his part to fire Charles Starks for violation of policy, to fire David Maddox for violation of policy. Police officers do good work, but there are some who make mistakes, who make misjudgments. I wear this T-shirt on Hunter Britton. I attended his funeral up in Beebe, Arkansas. A young white boy, 17 years old, killed by Deputy Mike Davis, who's defended by the same lawyer who defends Officer Starks and Officer Maddox. That child should not be dead. There has to be accountability, and everybody has to be accountable. When I was a judge, I was accountable. The FOP called for me to be removed from the bench because they felt that I made a decision that they didn't like. So they can be disciplined. They can be checked like anybody else. They're not above it. Let me tell you, people are beginning to take a look at the actions of police officers. Would you have believed what I saw up in Beebe, Arkansas? Al Sharpton addressing a crowd, a sea of white people from Beebe who were concerned about the death of that child at the hands of a white police officer. Now, you talk about crime in Little Rock. There's crime in North Little Rock. There was a murder at McDonald's in McCain's today in broad daylight. Anybody calling for Mayor Hardwick to resign or for the white police chief to be removed? I was in Washita County yesterday at the courthouse. There was a white man who entered a plea of guilty to the murder of his girlfriend, his white girlfriend, and her 4-year-old white son. There's a lot of murder going on, not just in Little Rock, not just in Pulaski County, but in these other places around the state. So yes, we want to work. We want to stop some of this crime. But the chief could do it better if people would stop picking on him, stop disrespecting him, and learn to follow his leadership. Thank you very much.
Ms. Loretta Hendricks.
Good evening, Mayor. Did you read my card? Did you read my card?
Your card, the topic is Position Ward 1.
Is that good for you? Yes? Okay, all right. Greetings to everyone. To the Little Rock Board of Directors and City of Little Rock residents, I formally announce my intent. I stand on my mother's shoulders today before the City of Little Rock and you, the Board of Directors. I speak today as there is an urgency about Director Hendricks's work and continuation within the City of Little Rock, Ward 1. Director Hendricks worked diligently throughout many years and unselfishly. As her daughter, it is my desire to fulfill my mother's term in office, having worked with Director Hendricks in representation of Ward 1 and in meeting the needs of the people of Ward 1. Not only am I qualified to represent the citizens of Ward 1, I deserve the seat because my family and I campaigned vigorously for the 2018 re-election of Irma Fingers Hendricks, Ward 1. Respectfully, I seek the City of Little Rock Board of Directors support and unified vote for position 1, Ward 1, appointment of Loretta Jo Hendricks. And finally, my family and I appreciate expressions of love, kindness, and comfort offered in the passing of Director Hendricks, our mother. May God bless the City of Little Rock and its people and the Board of Directors. Thank you and good evening.
Reverend Anika Whitfield. We'll wait a few seconds. Yes, ma'am. You're up. Give us one, Mr. Joe, if you don't mind. Yeah. Director Phillips has some wipes.
Thank you so much, Mayor and the City Board of Directors. Thank you to my sister Ruby for wiping off the podium as well as the mic. I recognize that we're still in COVID and we need to be mindful of those protocols during this pandemic. I come before you because I live in Ward 1 and I was a little disappointed because after Director Hendricks transitioned, all of us felt some kind of way. We've known that she's been serving in this position for years, and we respect her leadership. But when I reached out respectfully to find out about the position and how it would be filled, I got circles and circles and circles, and I'm someone who knows how to get information. I spoke directly to Tom Carpenter's office, who told me that they did not have the statutes in place or could not direct me to a place to find out how the position might be filled. Was very disappointed. Was then told to call your office, Mayor, and only to have left a message and not get a return call. And I do know that this is a very sensitive matter, and I do know that there are a lot of people in Ward 1 who are very interested in filling that position because we do recognize the vacancy. We saw it today, and we've seen it before. And so I'm asking that the City of Little Rock, whatever protocols are in place, that we would not have citizens calling and asking for questions and they be given the circle. Because you were able to clearly read the statute, Mayor, and you were able to clearly state what the policy is. And I'm sure that someone should have been able to direct me to that. The second thing that I want to say is I've heard more than one person come to this podium and talk about crime. And the true crimes in not only the City of Little Rock, but all over this nation is that the people that have the most have the audacity to continue to be greedy and take away from people that have the very least. And one of the reasons why I like to be able to be of service in my community as an organizer is because I recognize that the people who are most disenfranchised, the people who are most dispossessed, are often the least people who are considered to be at the table of decision-making processes. And we need to stop that. And so tonight we saw examples of that when Director Phillips talked about how we need to help small businesses during this pandemic. And it was a resolution that could not even pass, that was postponed. We need people who are serious about caring about all of the people in the city of Little Rock. And I hope to be one of those persons. So again, I just ask that we look at our policies and procedures and the people who are speaking with citizens and residents of the city of Little Rock and ensure that when people call, we can get the information that we're asking for. God bless you all and be safe.
And Reverend Whitfield, on behalf of my office, if you did not get a phone call back, I do apologize on behalf of my office. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
It's all right. Mr. Johnny Hassan, Reverend Johnny Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
La paz es contigo. Shalom alaikum. It is a shame that the invocation didn't give a prayer of condolences for our director, Mrs. Irma Hendricks. You're going to have an invocation before this board meeting of her death. It is a shame that one did not have the heart to give an invocation for Director Irma Hendricks. The first thing I said was, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum means peace, God's peace be unto you. Well, for the legal person there and the pastor, that also means it is a prayer upon the person who has deceased. And it is also a greeting, okay? And so the difference, when I said it in a prayer on our former director, Irma Hendricks. The issue for me is that, as a young man mentioned about Chuck Stark, he changed his name from Charles to Chuck and move on to another job. The only reason that the FOP could not save Chuck from being Stark because our contract did not have qualified immunity. If it had had qualified immunity, then he could not have fired Chuck Stark. That's his new name. And so the issue for me is that we are supporting the FOP's candidates. And my question to you as board and a lawyer, how is it that the FOP can finance the board of directors, okay, and at the same time file lawsuits, attorney, against the city? Now, somewhere there seems to be a conflict of interest, okay? If the FOP is a 501c3, okay, there's a problem. If it's a PAC, okay, so I would like for information, FOI, also determine not only the legal ramifications of supporting a candidate, but also the cost of these lawsuits, okay? And the other thing, okay, since my time is out, is that how is it that the FOP and they can have Lance Hines be their representative?
Reverend Hassan, okay. A few different people.
Yeah, I try to be upon you. My point is, I'm making my last point, okay? Because y'all violated the rules, I can violate the rule right here. The last point is, how is it that you can publish personnel issues on the newspaper and on television? Where is that, our attorney, city attorney?
Thank you, Reverend Hassan. Seeing no other commentary from citizens communication, Seeing no other commentary for this communication, Director Wright.
Yes. I don't know if everybody got this, but we got a letter I got a letter from State Representative Denise Ennett about the State Fairground. And she was asking us to, consider allocating some of our American Rescue Plan funding to assist with 4 projects that they have there, enclosing the equestrian center, constructing bathrooms, modernizing Barton Coliseum and the HVAC. Now, I do know that the state got a lot more money than we did, but we have in the past made an allocation to the state fairgrounds. I believe in 2011, we gave them $3 million. So would you please look into this and see if that's something that we would want to do? I think it's very important that we support the state fair, and it is a major impact on our community, and it draws a lot of people. And as I think I saw on my Twitter feed or something about a county fair going to be in North Little Rock now. So we want to make sure that our state fair is always the best and the top notch. Now, I do realize the state got a lot of money, so we need to make sure that we're not disproportionately providing what they should be providing, but I do support the state fair.
Yes, ma'am. We'll take that under strong advisement.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions, comments from members of the board, there a motion? There's a motion second for adjournment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.